just explain that moment right there to me. What are you feeling right there?
Thank you, God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I just remember saying, thank you, God. Thank you, God.
Yeah.
Is it going?
I think we're going.
This is weird.
You ready to do this?
Yeah.
All right. This is Video Diary Episode 1, whatever we're calling these. This is for
Our first episode.
us and our family and our kids in the future to watch someday, documenting our major life events.
We'll have to do one of these every kiddo that we have.
Every kid, definitely.
So this is episode 1 because this is our first baby.
This is our first baby. So,
this is for you, truly.
Yeah. So we're gonna go through the whole birth story.
Yeah.
And I have a list of questions that I'm gonna ask you. We're Reagan and Faith, for anyone who doesn't know who we are, but I doubt many people will be watching this. This is just going to be for Truly. But Truly is 8 days old today.
Yep, a week and 1 day.
And we're the pink squad today for our baby girl. Had to rep that.
Yeah, she's wearing a really cute ballerina dress, but you can't see it. So it's from Auntie Tati.
Auntie Tati. So, yeah, I just figured I would ask you questions and you would answer because there's a lot of things I want to know and I want to hear your perspective on.
Okay.
So, first question, Faith. And I'm going to back up a little bit. We're going to start with the pregnancy. What was the most difficult part of pregnancy and what was the most meaningful part of your pregnancy?
It's so hard because I could go physically or spiritually. I'd say the most difficult thing in pregnancy was probably the faith game, honestly. I just wasn't expecting quite how much you're out of control. Like, you hear people all the time say, oh, I'm pregnant, and then you just expect them to have their baby. But then when you have your own and you're pregnant and you realize, oh my gosh, this is such a miracle, and you want it so bad. Like, you want to meet this little baby girl now. Like, that's all you want at this point when you become pregnant. You're like, I want to meet this child. And then the fears of, but I'm out of control. So it's like, wait, I can't, no matter how much I want her to meet her, there's a possibility that I might not. And then, I think just those fears.
And we had a couple of moments where that really started to hit hard.
Yeah.
Like the reality of that. And just a couple moments just laying in bed and just praying. Yeah. And just asking for faith.
Yeah. And for a long time, like, I knew that was something that people probably thought or the enemy would try to use against anyone, because the gift of life is only from God. It's not from the enemy. And so, of course, he would try to make you doubt whether or not this was a gift that God was giving you. So in hindsight, that's something that I can recognize. And it was something I try to remind myself of often. But I would say before I was kind of silent. Like, I didn't tell you at first that I was, like, struggling with that. And it's mainly because I knew they were lies. I knew it wasn't true. And so I was like, why would I speak it? And like, I'm not even going to let these thoughts be words that I communicate. And so for a while, I just kind of like kept to myself. And then I think what really triggered it was when I was just so sick in the first and second trimester, that
really sick, like it was bad.
And I think part of those fears that
we had to take you to the ER actually at one point.
Yeah. I think part of the validity to those truths, that I kind of was trying not to believe, was the fact that my mom almost lost me because of being so sick. And so when I realized I'm just as sick as my mom was, and so I was like, oh my gosh, like, what if? So I'd just say, honestly, the faith battle, because it wasn't even just the what if I don't get to meet this child, but it was like, what if I didn't take enough prenatals? Or what if, like the thoughts of what if I'm not doing something right and she's possibly going to suffer for it for the rest of her life? Like just so many dumb lies, but things that just become so real to you when you realize like how much you just can't know, and it really is just in God's hands. And there came a point where I definitely wasn't struggling as much with it. It was never something that I think anyone probably really knew other than like you, but because I was trying to be strong. But then after kind of facing them, I ended up telling you that I was struggling with doubts and stuff, and I know a couple times I asked you just to pray for me. But then I think I got to a point where I was like, yes, this is a gift from God. I'm going to trust him in faith. But I remember there's still a point where I was still struggling, and I felt like the Lord, on a prayer walk, I felt like the Lord told me, Faith, I need you to not just trust me in testimony, but trust me in heart. And yeah, I think that was like the turning point for me to be like, yes, like, God, I know that you're good, and this life is a gift that you're giving us, and whether or not she has health issues or whatever, it's not going to be because I didn't do XYZ. It's not going to be because I didn't take enough prenatals or whatever. It's just going to be because this is the way you're creating her to be. And so it was like just a moment where it was more surrender. And I knew going into pregnancy and just becoming a mom that God was going to teach me how to be a mom. And I am very grateful for this. I would say this was the hardest thing, but also the most meaningful thing was going through it, realizing that this is just the beginning of trusting the Lord with this life, and it's just the beginning of leaning and depending on God. And so I would say depending on God was probably the element of faith that God taught me the most throughout my pregnancy, and I know it's going to continue.
Yeah, and because you really were doing everything you knew to do and that you could have done. You were taking all the prenatals, the vitamins.
I was switching prenatals because they were making me sick, and then I was like, I don't think I can take these.
Yeah, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm throwing up. This is just how it is. Like, you were trying to keep stuff in you. You were trying to you were staying hydrated as best you could.
I stayed hydrated as much as I could.
I don't know how many chais and lattes truly ended up taking in because of you, but she's going to love chais and lattes now. But
and milk.
Yeah. So on like the difficult side of pregnancy, for me, the hardest part was, because I guess it's that faith wrestling is a little bit different because just of how intimate you are with her during pregnancy, and I'm not in that same connection with her. So the trusting that she was going to be okay it just wasn't naturally as difficult for me. Like I just believed that if you were doing what you're supposed to do, that God was going to take care of her, and thank the Lord he did. But so the most difficult part for me was just how hard it was on you, just the pain that, I mean, my goodness, you went through hell in this pregnancy with your sciatic nerve in your back.
Yeah, I forgot about sciatica.
Just
that was
and so but that wasn't even until later on, second and third trimester.
Yeah.
But the early on part, you were, again, like I said, we had to take you to the emergency room because you lost so many fluids. You were throwing up. You could not. I mean, it was like there was a period of like 2 weeks or like a week. I can't remember how long it was, but you could not keep anything down, and it was really bad. You got really sick. And so I think that's where we both were kind of like, you were fearful for Truly, and I was kind of in the back of my mind thinking like, she is getting what she needs from what you are keeping down, but you're not getting anything you need because all the excess stuff you're just throwing up. And so I was kind of freaking out at that point.
Yeah, I lost weight too. Like I know that's when people are supposed to start gaining weight, and I just lost weight.
But there was one night that it was really bad, and then we finally just decided, okay, we gotta go to the ER because you need to get an IV or something in you. Yeah. Because it was the nausea. You had really, really bad nausea.
With just throwing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that pretty much lingered. And then, I would say physically, that was hard on your body. That's just really hard on your body. Yeah. And it's hard not to feel like if you feel this awful, she has to be not doing okay. Like that's what it feels like. But Again, it's kind of part of the process. Like she's taking what she needs, which means your body's being depleted. Although it still doesn't make much sense. It's like, why does your body reject what you need while she's taking what she needs? It's just kind of a weird paradox, but
well, and I will say on this too, later on in the pregnancy, when your sciatic nerve got so bad you couldn't walk for a period of time, and this is why I will always tell guys and men that it's important for us to be strong. It's important for us to be healthy, fit, and in shape, because I had to carry you around for a solid 3 days at one point, from the bed to the bathroom to the car to here and there. I mean, I was your wheelchair. Yeah,
and I'm definitely not the one to be like, oh, I'm just it's hard enough, so I won't walk. It was like I just couldn't walk. And that was crazy. But thank the Lord for mother's advice. Mom told me to get Hokas.
Thank the Lord for Hokas, man.
Oh my gosh.
They're the best.
I'm a believer.
I am too. I'm convinced. I have some as well, and I've never had better shoes.
Within a day of walking in those Hokas, of course, the inflammation needed to go down, so BioFreeze was helpful. Oh my goodness. So inflammation went down in my sciatica. Yeah. And then,
were you basically living off ibuprofen too? I couldn't remember how much you were taking during that point.
I did not take any ibuprofen
during that period.
During pregnancy.
Oh, during pregnancy.
I didn't take any
That's
ibuprofen.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that's right, because you can't, right? It's a blood thinner.
I did take Tylenol. I tried to take Tylenol.
Okay.
But I just pretty much used BioFreeze to get the inflammation down. Yeah. And then started wearing Hokas from the moment my toes touched the ground. To when they got back in bed, I wore my Hokas, and they literally helped me so much. I was able to walk, and so definitely a Hoka believer.
Okay, the last thing I'll say on this, I really just the faith, grace, joy, peace, all of it that you exhibited throughout the whole pain process was just absolutely beautiful for me to watch. And I will never make comparison jokes about pregnancy to anything guys go through again, and birth, because you went through the hardest thing I've ever seen a human being go through. And in those moments of just sheer and terror pain, I never saw you actually lose faith. I saw you wrestling and struggling, but I never saw you lose faith. And the Lord always gave peace because you were choosing faith throughout the whole thing. So there's just a million different ways that I want to say I'm proud of you, and you just encouraged me so much. And I picked a good one, man. Lord, thank you. All right, next question. What did it feel like to have a little human moving inside of you for 9 months?
Everyone always, I think everyone kind of imagines what that would be like, and girls actually get to experience that most of the time. And
they should.
I honestly,
at some point in their life,
I don't know how to explain it. It's at first, because it's a gradual, progression of strength. They're very little when they first start moving.
Do you remember when we first felt her move? Or when you first felt her move?
Yeah. I was in the middle of a call. Remember? We were doing ELP. Anyway, so I would say, because it's such a gradual progression of feeling her, it feels so normal. If that makes any sense. But I would say,
it's so subtle, you can't really tell the changes happening.
When I thought I was feeling her moving, but I know the first time I felt her move, I was 17 weeks, and it was just I don't even.
Is that an average time when you start feeling babies move?
Usually in the second pregnancy, you can feel more around that time. Apparently, I felt her early, but you can feel anywhere between I think it's 14 to up and up, something like that. I don't know. Okay. But anyway, 17 weeks is when I felt her move for the first time. And I knew it was her. And people say it feels like flutters in your stomach. I I wouldn't say that for me.
Yours felt like kicks and jabs and uppercuts.
I wouldn't say she felt like she was like, I don't know. I didn't feel like butterflies, flutters. No, it was definitely like a very distinct movement where you're like, it's either my intestines just became alive or there's something living inside of me, you know, like it's just like a very distinct movement that you can tell like this is its own being, like it's not my body. So I don't know, that doesn't really help describe it, but I think it's the most special thing.
Let me ask you this. Do you remember her hardest move? Like her most abrupt or
Oh yeah, that's definitely in the third trimester. Like the days leading up to her coming, sometimes she would just like kick, and it was like, oh, like it was. She's so strong. I mean, she could technically be my womb right now, and you see how much she's moving. It's like, it's strong. But yeah, I would say the coolest thing about feeling her inside of you is just like, oh my gosh, like it reminds you of life. And honestly, at that point, feeling her move was such a reassurance for me, because when, again, I would feel some of those doubts or questioning, is she okay? Is she okay? Like, I would feel her move and I'd be like, she's okay. You know, like, she's okay.
Yeah. I didn't know. Something I learned was that babies move all the time in the womb, or are supposed to be moving all the time. And so I didn't know that. When was it that we started counting 10 moves in an hour?
Oh, I can't remember, but
it was in the second trimester?
Third trimester.
Oh, it was third?
Yeah.
Okay. Beginning. So, yeah. That was something cool to learn, that you could at any given hour or a period of an hour feel for, and you should feel at least 10 moves. Yeah. And I think I remember the first time you tried that on our way back from that midwife appointment, you felt 10 moves in like 5 minutes.
10 minutes. Yeah. She was all over
She's
a really active baby.
She's a very active baby. Yeah. Yeah. And then I remember just over time, I would put my head or my ear on your belly, and I could actually hear her, not like hear her really clear, but I could like hear the rumblings and the bumping and stuff. It's kind of like if you're underwater in a pool and you like hit the wall, like that kind of deep, distant thumping. That's kind of what it sounded like. Yeah. And I felt her like move across my cheek sometimes too.
That's so
that was
cute.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's something that I can't experience. Like you getting to hear her. Obviously I could feel her, but you could hear her moving and stuff. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's very neat. Something I hope everyone gets to experience someday.
Yeah.
Okay, you kind of covered this one, but I think I'll ask just more poignantly. What did God teach you while you were pregnant?
Dependency, like in a totally different way. Yeah. You know, I think that's what faith is. It is like it's a dependent trust in God. And I think the dependency part, it's adding the action of surrender. I don't know, or
it's the fruit of surrender. You could say.
You could say
that. It's the
that.
outward exemplification of surrender.
Yeah, because when we say we surrender, it's like, oh yeah, I surrender, but it's like, no, I need you.
Yeah.
Like, and that was kind of what I felt the Lord was just, you know,
it's
doing
like
in my life.
It's like if you have your life and you put it in God's hands, but you're still holding on to it. The full faith of it is the actual letting go part, and that you're actually letting go of it. Yeah,
and I think surrender in and of itself is total faith. But I think the dependency part is like, I surrender and I need you. Like, it's almost like when you can't walk anymore.
Yeah.
It's like allowing the Lord to pick you up. Like, of the whole example of you having to carry me around with sciatica. I was like, it's not just that I surrendered, because like, I couldn't walk. I was surrendered, but I was dependent on you.
In this situation, it's not just that you wanted to, but you needed to. You didn't have an option. Like this, and this is why also I love you so much and I respect you, and why I married you was because we're so together on our value system and our worldview. Like, there was when we found out we were pregnant, there's no going back. We're having this baby. There's no other option but to have this baby. You know, that was decided before we got married. Yeah. And so for you, it's like, I don't just want to surrender to God. I have to figure out how to surrender to God. I need to surrender all of this to the Lord, because there's no other option. There's no starting over. There's no, whoops, well, we'll do this later. Like, we're having this baby. Yeah. So we have to figure out how to do this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so I'd definitely say that's what God taught me the most, was definitely depending. And again, even in other areas, I'd say too, because like depending on you, because like before.
I made so many runs for coffee
independent.
in the morning.
Like,
first thing.
I'm pretty independent. I don't ask for help often. Like, I don't know.
So what was that like? True? Was it like well, because you do like ask me for things. You do trust me, depend on me as your husband to provide, and that whole element of our marriage. But was this like a different element of
this
just
was like
learning to depend on me?
Because things that I typically could do on my own, I couldn't. And so I know part of you could lean into pride and be like, I could do it, or I don't know, like be resentful towards you for helping. But honestly, I was just overwhelmed by how well you served me throughout the whole pregnancy and the delivery. And even now, you've always been a servant, and I've seen that in you, and I've felt served before, truly. But this was a totally different element because, again, it wasn't just like, oh, he's doing this. I could do it, but he's doing it for me, or like he's mindful of me. Like that was before, but in this time around, it was like, I needed you, and I didn't have to even really ask. Like, you were there, and it was in a moment where like, no, I really can't do some of these things on my own, and like even you praying for me when I asked you to pray for me, so spiritually and physically, like all the nights needing milk, and like I don't know why milk was the thing this pregnancy. I drank so much milk, but just like the little things, of needing you physically and spiritually to be strong for me, was depending on you in a different way, I would say. So I'm very grateful for that, and I love you.
Of course, I love you, babe. What was a frequent prayer that you prayed while pregnant?
Over her.
Or just in general.
Okay, but I think the most frequent prayer is prayers over her. When we picked her name, when we picked Alethea, we knew we wanted to pick a name that meant something. Like we wanted a beautiful name, obviously, but we also wanted a name that was going to be an anchor for her. My name meaning has been such an anchor for me in my life, and for her, I really just felt like that was also going to be, it's just meaningful, and for her faith, and we felt like it was our job as parents to speak over her, an anchor. And so when we decided on Alethea for Truth, I would say that was what I wanted to pray over her the most during pregnancy is, I'm having my faith thing and that's my name, and I'm like having to walk through that. But for her, I'd say I prayed the same prayer of, Lord, grow her in beauty and strength and spirit and truth and joy and kindness and a heart for you. Like that is essentially encompassing everything that I really just feel like the Lord put on our hearts for her. And I felt like I knew her before I even met her because of what we were speaking over her. And in a way, it was like stepping into what God has for you and for her before you even meet her. And so that was really powerful for us, I think. And that was my nightly prayer and my prayer for her even now still. And we continue to want to pray that for her, just because we know that those are fruits of the Spirit, and they're fruit of who God has called all of us to be, and specifically the meaning of her name. So and
I just remember praying a lot of the same stuff, just the meaning of her name over her life, and praying a lot for health in the while she was in the womb. And just praying for, I feel like I prayed a lot for God's Spirit to just already be moving on her and impressed on her. If the Holy Spirit was moving on John the Baptist in the womb, I just prayed that, it doesn't matter if she's in the womb right now, Lord, just bring your Spirit upon her, and that his voice would just already become familiar to her, and that she would always grow up knowing his voice and what he sounds like. And we definitely prayed that often, was just that the Spirit of God would be upon her and comfort her in the womb. Okay, let's get to the birth story. from your perspective, but let's start with the night that we thought she was going to come. When you had that night of pre-labor contractions. Yeah. What was that night like?
Well, okay, so this was during the end of Leadership Congress week, and I was not gonna lie, I was on my feet all day, every day, trying to kind of.
I might have done something.
Yeah, trying to, in a way, keep things going.
You're trying to induce,
and it was the end of the week, and I was just kind of like, I feel like she's just normal, like in there. I just didn't feel like I was any closer. Her due date was still 2 weeks out from that point. And so we woke up on Friday, and I felt very sick. And this isn't like the nausea sickness from earlier. This was like knives in my stomach. And I was like, oh, no.
Different kind of sick.
This is not good.
Yeah.
And so immediately I was like, I have the flu.
We were still in Fredericksburg at this time.
Yeah, we were in Fredericksburg for Leadership Congress, and you were really excited because that night was a banquet and Victor Marks was going to be there, and I know
that's okay.
You really wanted to talk with him.
We got it recorded.
Yeah. But that morning I ended up just like getting really sick and just like really achy, and I wasn't sure if I was fevering and just throwing up just really violently, and I was like, I have the flu. This is not good.
That really sucked because I remember thinking, oh my goodness, no, like she hasn't thrown up in a while, and now she's throwing up again.
Yeah.
And like truly could come any day. It might be today, and she's throwing up. Like, this is not good.
That would not have been good if this ended up being when my water broke, but thank the Lord it didn't.
Yeah.
But I got really sick and threw up very violently for the morning and early afternoon. We decided to pack up from Fredericksburg and come home.
I don't think I've ever packed so fast.
Yeah. I was just feeling awful.
You were throwing up in the bathroom, and I was just making runs to the truck with our stuff back and forth.
Yeah, it was not good, and it hurt. Like, the throwing up hurt mainly because she's literally about to come, so she's big.
Yeah.
And the way I was throwing up was like contracting down so hard.
Well, that's what I was going to say was the throwing up probably, did that start your contractions?
I think it did because when we got home, essentially my gut was just really tight after that. Like I could feel my stomach was really tight, but it didn't. I stopped like throwing up, and I started feeling like a lot better. But then I noticed that I was starting to contract, and at first I was like, oh, I'm having Braxton Hicks, which they essentially were. They were just like stronger. But they were like, really consistent for like most of the day. And so we were kind of like, am I going into labor? We were tracking. And it was just hard to tell because I was feeling so awful. And then you just don't know what to expect. Like, oh, maybe I could be in pre-labor. Maybe I could be going into labor. But then maybe it's just a long progress, because I've heard of stories of people who have these pre-labors, but then it actually leads to real labor. So I was calling my mom, and she was kind of talking through and trying to figure out what where I was at. And she knew. She was like, I think you just got the stomach bug. And I was like, no, I don't want to believe it.
That was not and so it was a 24-hour bug that you got.
It was a 24-hour bug, but I didn't have it for 24 hours. Like, I only threw up in the morning of that day, and then I was like done. Yeah. But then with the contractions, we tried to lean into them. And Mom was like, well, if you are in pre-labor, you could go walk and try to ride this out.
Yeah. You could do it. Your mom was like, you could do what I did and go run a 5K.
So we went.
We didn't run, but we fast
walked
a 5K.
We went and power walked a 5K that day when I
felt great.
When I really was
got
just
my exercise
sick.
in.
I was really just sick. But walked the 5K.
Yeah.
And then when we came back, I could tell that after the walk, actually, my contractions.
Wait, so we drove.
Down.
We came home from Fredericksburg.
Yeah.
We threw up again on the way.
Yeah.
And then we got home, and then we decided to walk the 5K. So we walked the 5K here at home, and then contractions started like pretty frequently.
Yeah, but then when I did the walk, that was later that evening, right when people were going to the banquet, because we had discussed. Should we just go to the banquet? I'm glad we didn't.
I'm so glad we did not. Yeah, that would have been terrible.
But after
you would
the
have been
5K.
in the bathroom the whole time.
Well, after the 5K, I ended up just like, I could tell the contractions were stopping. And so less frequent. So yeah, we didn't end up going into labor, but we thought possibly. So it's kind of let down. But we had recorded some videos. We were getting all excited.
So we kind of went to bed a little sad that night. We were excited to see her, but so we went to bed, and then now I'm forgetting how the days went. It was okay. Then it was just take us from there.
It was literally a week later.
So a week later,
because that was Friday, the banquet.
Oh, you're right. Oh my goodness, wow, that was a whole week. Okay. So take us from there. A week later, then what?
Well, okay, so the night before, so that was Friday. Thought we were in labor or not. The next Friday, so the night before, actually Thursday, we were in Canyon Lake for Lucy's birthday party, her 5th birthday party. And we were there.
Who you share a birthday with, by the way, truly.
And we were there late because we hadn't seen my family in almost 2 weeks with Leadership Congress stuff. And so we got there. We didn't intend to stay so late, but we were just like, oh, we missed them. And so we were just talking and catching up. We ended up staying until like 11, somewhere around there. And we drove home that night. And you had joked, you're like, let's just stay, let's just stay the night. And just in case. And I'm like, no, let's go home. I want to be in my bed. So we drive all the way home, 45 minutes. And we get home, we settle into bed. We don't go to bed till probably like 12-ish. And I wake up Friday morning, early morning, 1:15. That's what I wrote down. And I woke
Friday, August 9th.
August 9th, a week later. And I wake up and I feel wet, but not like I peed the bed. So it wasn't like excessive. I just felt super sweaty and hot. And then I also felt like kind of just wet down there. And I was like, okay, weird. Maybe I'm sweating so much through my underwear. And so like I get up and nothing's leaking, it's normal. But I do get to the restroom and yeah, my underwear was very wet. But I was like, it could be sweat, I don't know. And so as I was going to the bathroom, I was peeing, and I'm pretty sure that's when my water started to break. But I didn't realize it because I think it actually had been leaking. And that's why I was wet. But while I was going to the bathroom, I think I lost my mucus plug, and all of that right then. I just didn't really realize it. But I could feel that I was crampy. Like I was uncomfortable. And so I thought I just had to go to the bathroom. But really that was kind of the start of it. So I went to the bathroom, changed. I sat up in bed. Like I kind of had this feeling like this could be it. Like I think I might be like going into labor here. So I just sat up.
Were you more nervous, scared, excited?
I was just kind of like trying not to psych myself out. Like maybe this is not, maybe it's not.
It's like, hopefully it's not another false alarm.
Yeah. And so I was like, don't overthink it. Like, but I was just kind of like getting really like antsy. Like maybe this is it. But I didn't want to call anyone, wake anyone up. It was 1:15 a.m. I didn't wake you up. So I just like sat up in bed.
Yeah, you didn't wake me up for another 45 minutes.
Yeah, I just sat up in bed.
So what happened between 1:15 and 2?
Me just like trying to figure out if my water broke. So I'm like sitting up in bed. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
Is more water going to come out? I'm just like waiting. But then I'd started to have little contractions.
Oh, okay.
And when I had those, I felt water.
So that's like a
And so I was like, wait.
Yeah.
Is this now my water breaking? I still wasn't sure my water broke. But and then I came out here and I was going to get ibuprofen. No, not ibuprofen. I was going to get milk because I thought I was like, maybe I need to eat calories or I don't know. I'm just like panicking kind of, but not. And so when I'm walking out here, I like water started going down my legs. I'm like,
you're like, okay, that's it.
It's definitely my water.
That's
I'm like,
it.
So I think it did break and it was just continually leaking. So when I came out here and it was like going down my legs, I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. And so I forgot about the milk and I turned right back around. And then I went to the bathroom. That was when I went to the bathroom again, just to like change and not be wet. And I put a pad on and then I came up to you and I was like,
woke me up.
I woke you up.
Yeah. So then
Your
I remember.
reaction
So I
was
remember
so
being
cute.
woken up. Yeah. So I don't think you shook me or anything. I just heard you say Reagan.
I did put my
Did you
hand on you,
touch
but
me?
I didn't shake you. I was
Okay.
like,
So you put your
did
hand
I
on
say
me.
Reagan? Yeah.
I heard you say Reagan, and I kind of opened my eyes and I'm like, did I say what, or did I say anything? But then you responded, or you said after
I said
that,
it like right away. So
Yeah.
I was like,
you said, I think my water
I
just
was
broke.
my water broke. And you're like,
Yeah. Then I woke up and
You're like-
all the way up.
you're like, really?
Really?
Do we need to go?
Yeah.
And, like, you start getting up.
I said, really? Does that mean we need to leave right
Yeah.
now?
And you're like, you started getting up, and I'm like, no, I think we need to stay. Like,
You said, I think I want to call
Galen.
Galen and my mom first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we call Galen.
Mm-hmm.
I call Galen. I'm on the toilet, and I tell her that my water broke.
Which shout out to Galen, by the way. She answered that phone probably asleep 5 seconds before that. And then she's like, hello, this is Galen. Sounds so professional.
I know. And so, yeah, I call her and I say, like, I'm so sorry because I felt so bad waking her up. I'm like, I think my water broke. I know my water broke. And so she was like, okay, yay, how exciting, but she was like, it's going to be a while. So hang tight. And then she told me, to wait, 511, 411, all that jazz, which is like a time frame they use to mark the contractions. So anyway, we end up just hanging out for a little bit, just not that long though. Yeah. We hung out for a little bit and the contractions had started. And I was like, oh, these are real contractions. Like, these are not Braxton Hicks. No mistake. So my active labor really start about 2:30ish. That's when I was like in active labor.
Yeah. And so we did that here for a couple hours.
Yeah.
And
like
it was not good. You immediately started having bad back labor.
Yeah,
That was
immediately.
terrible. And we tried a couple different things. We tried the birth ball, moving your back around. I think I rubbed your back for a little bit, but
Yeah.
nothing was helping that. So you labored like that for a couple hours, pretty painfully here.
Yeah.
And then we called
had
Galen again.
I had called my mom. Oh,
That's
and
right. We
I
called your
forgot.
mom
I
first.
called my mom and your mom after I called Galen.
Yeah. Just
and
to let
told
them
them
know.
that like my water broke.
Yeah.
Yeah. And told them
Just
we
to tell
keep
them like, hey, tonight's going to be the
Yeah.
night.
Which when I
we'll
called
let
your
y'all
mom,
know.
it was so funny because your mom, she was like, hello?
She was
And
definitely,
then she was like already awake.
she was definitely still up.
She hadn't gone
She
to
was
bed
still
yet.
working at 2,
It was like
whatever it was.
one. Yeah. Whenever I called her.
Very typical.
Yeah, so she was
So-
still up, which was hilarious. And I was
Yeah.
like, she has to have been not even asleep yet.
Yeah.
But my mom, when I had called her, she had just gone to sleep.
Mm.
And so I felt bad because she just had gone to sleep. But anyway, that was so
Yeah.
cute. Oh, your mom answered the phone. She knew.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then during this couple hours of laboring here, I was making sure the truck was good to go. We had our
Yeah.
go bag in there. I put just some drinks, some other smaller stuff, a couple of snacks I
Yeah.
thought we would need later. So I got the truck ready to go.
And then you called Galen
And then
again.
we called Galen again. Yeah, because at this point you had a hard time talking you couldn't talk
I
during the
couldn't really talk
contraction. So,
already.
so you
and-
decided that you wanted to try to labor in the tub.
In the tub.
Was what we
At the
talked
birthing
about.
center.
And we weren't supposed to get
Yeah,
in the tub
she
here
said
at the
don't
house.
draw any baths or anything.
And why
here.
was that again?
I don't know. I don't know if it's like I don't know.
Maybe
I
it's
don't know
like if
why.
it moves it along too fast, you might end up having it at your house without the
my guess would be
I don't know.
that my guess would be like that they wouldn't want me to put any substances in the bathtub, maybe, or I don't know, causes infection. I don't really know.
I don't remember what she said
But she
or
said
why,
don't take any showers or draw any baths. And so,
Yeah.
but I knew that I could labor in the birthing tub there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like,
Yeah.
my mom was actually the one who said, hey, maybe you should try going and laboring in the tub there. So you called Galen, and at first she was like, don't come yet. Like, she's like,
Yeah.
it's going to be a while.
Yeah. She knew it was
and
going
at
to
this
be
point,
like,
it was like 3 something.
yeah.
But we were like, no, we need to go. We need to be, she wants to labor in the tub.
Yeah. Something to try to relieve the pain in your back.
pain in the
That was
back.
all we were
Yeah.
focused on, was how to relieve the pain in your back,
Yeah.
because it was so bad.
Yeah.
So we tell her we're going to do that. And she said, and we called her at 3:40 at that point.
You remember.
And she said, okay, let's meet there at 5.
Yeah.
An hour and 20 minutes. She said, how far of a drive is it for you guys? I said,
Yeah.
it's right at an hour.
Yeah.
She said, okay, let's meet at 5. An hour and 20 minutes from now.
It was an hour
So
drive.
hold on. So I'm getting there. So I made sure the truck was good. The truck was running at this point. then we packed up and we hit the road right at 4. We left 20 minutes later. Supposed to get there at 5.
Right at 4.
We got there at 4:40 in 40 minutes. So I cut 20 minutes off that drive.
Well,
because I sped the whole way. No, we pulled up right at 4:40. I was watching the clock, but
yeah. So laboring in the truck, not fun.
That was not fun.
But when we got to, it was like 4:30, and I was gonna let my mom know where we were at as far as like how close we were. She told us to let her know. So I don't look around me. I'm just like holding on to whatever the thing is in the truck.
You're just assuming we're gonna get there at 5.
Yeah. Right. So I look at the clock and I see 4:30. So I text my mom, we're 30 minutes out. Then all of a sudden I see the Buc-ee's sign in New Braunfels, and I'm like, we're 30 minutes out. We're way closer
than I thought.
We're in New Braunfels.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wait, what?
So at that point, we're like 10 minutes away.
We're like 10 minutes out. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't even follow up with my mom. So she thought we were 30 minutes out. So she was.
But here's what I will say. God gave me green lights the whole way. So he let me speed. He wanted me to. He was just, Reagan, here you go. Boom, straight path. Just have at it.
I'm going to pick her up.
Okay, yeah. So, because I was really thinking in my mind, like, the best thing for you is to get in that tub. And so I don't care if we're there a little early or before 5. Like, we're going to get there and then you're going to get in the tub because that's what you need. So my wife's in pain. I'm going to get my wife to that tub come hell or high water in a fast highway. And I did speed the whole way, man. I think
And I didn't even realize it.
I hit 90 probably most of the time on the highway.
Your back roads, mind you, other than the highway that you finally got to the highway. But
yeah.
By the time you're on the highway.
I was more mindful on the back roads because you told me several times, babe, we don't have, like, this at this point, it's not going to be anytime soon, so you don't have to speed. So I slowed down on the back roads a bit.
But I didn't realize you were actually like speeding.
But then, but I made up some time on the highway once we got to New Braunfels for sure. Yeah. So anyway, we got there early.
20
minutes early.
I was like, they're not even gonna be here.
Yeah. So, but Brittany was there, Galen's assistant.
Yeah.
And she was getting things ready.
Yes.
And so we get there and then pick us up from there.
Yeah. So we get there and I'm just like, finally, I can get out of the truck because that is not a comfortable position, mind you. Oh, my hair's in your face. So we get there and Brittany's there and she has all these like sweet lights on, like just warm lights, nothing super bright because it's early. And I was just so relieved to be there. She hadn't started drawing the tub yet. So we were just kind of working through some contractions. I tried to sit on their ball, but I was just like, I'm not feeling this. My mom gets there shortly after and she's like, are you not going to go labor in the tub? And at this point, I'm just like trying to like figure out, oh my gosh, how painful is this we're really going to get? Because these are painful contractions and I wasn't really getting relief through, I wasn't getting really relief throughout the contractions in between because of the back labor. It was just intensifying.
Your sciatic nerve too.
It was like the back pain was going like nearly up mostly half, I think like halfway through my back.
That's crazy.
And so I was just like, oh my gosh, how long can I handle this? Like I'm already thinking like, oh no, how long can I handle this? I'm like freaking out, but not trying to show it. Yeah. And so then when my mom got there, she had Brittany draw the bath, I think. And this is when I'm really just, it's almost like a time warp. Like it's hard to even know where I was at because at this point I stopped tracking the contractions. Originally we're tracking them to see if they're like 5 minutes apart, 4 minutes apart, whatever. This point you stop tracking and you're just there. You're gonna you got there and you're gonna leave with the baby.
Yeah.
So then Brittany drew the bath, which it felt like it took forever, but it was just like probably me because
it did take a while. And while we were waiting on that, you were trying different positions and stuff. Woo. But the worst one when Brittany suggested you lay on your side, but you knew
I knew it was a bad idea.
Previous nights of trying that to try to relieve the pain in the back that it doesn't.
Yeah.
And when you tried that, I mean, babe, you screamed in pain like I've never heard a human scream before. And that was probably the hardest moment for me watching you go through that.
I
was
remember
that was that contraction when you were on your side. Really the whole time when you were on your side.
Yeah.
And which was only like 5 minutes. You weren't on your side for very long, but
yeah. So
that was
they had suggested
awful.
multiple different like positions. Galen wasn't here yet, by the way. My primary.
Do you want to lay her
midwife,
down?
I think she wants to eat.
Oh, okay. Do we need to take a break?
Well, I can just put her on and then put a blanket on, but
Okay.
I'll finish this part. So yeah, so Galen wasn't there yet, and I kept wondering, like, when's Galen gonna get here? When's Galen gonna get here? Because I just knew when Galen got there, I was close, you know. But because at this point, I have no idea how long I'm gonna labor. I just heard many times that laboring and your first child is gonna be a long time. So I was just like, I'm trying to gauge where I was at by when Galen would get there. So anyway, Brittany and my mom were suggesting different positions to try, and one of them suggested laying on my side, and I knew that was probably a bad idea because I couldn't lay on my side really comfortably pregnant because of my round ligament pains. And so
you just had a lot going on.
Yeah, so on top of like the contraction, I knew that was gonna hurt the round ligament too. And so I laid down on my side, though I tried it, and that was like probably one of the hardest contractions I had.
Yeah,
was on my side. And like I remember screaming. I was just like, oh my gosh, like that is so painful. And I remember my mom saying in that moment, she was like, these are good because this is helping move along, you know, the process. Like these painful contractions move along the process. But I'm like, it doesn't have to be that painful.
Yeah. And so at this point, Galen wasn't there, and you're thinking, are you starting to think, I don't know if I can do this, like we might need to go to the hospital, I might need to get an epidural, like you're starting to have those thoughts at this point?
Yeah, I mean I was thinking like I just need to know how far I am, but I didn't quite get to that point yet where I was like, I can't do it. Like I was just like, whenever Galen gets here, like it's gonna be okay. So between then, and I don't really know how long it was until she got there. Like, what time did Galen get there?
She got there like a little past 7, probably 7:10 or something like that.
Really? So we were there at 5.
So you labored
6,
for a couple
7.
hours before she got there.
I did. Well, it felt actually, okay, in memory, it feels like she got there quick. But in the moment, it didn't feel like she got there quick.
Well, because you had finally gotten in the tub and then gotten back out before she got there.
That's true.
So you tried the whole thing on your side. That didn't work. So we got, and the tub was ready pretty soon after that. So we just said, all right, get her in the tub.
I got in the tub.
So you sat in there for a little bit.
Yeah, and I really probably would have stayed, but I felt like I had to go to the bathroom. And so I was like, I have to go to the bathroom. And I think you were like, just go in the tub. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to the tub. And so you helped me get to the toilet. I don't even think I went. I think I forgot I even had to go.
I just remember them saying, it's okay to go in the tub. Like,
I think...
just do it. It's okay.
No shame. No, I will not do that. Which you end up doing it when you're pushing. Yeah. But I was like, no, I'm not there yet. So, I labored in the tub for a little bit, and it did help with the back. I mean, it felt like it helped a little bit with the back pain, but the back pain was just still so prevalent. It kind of gave me a position where I was able to put my arms around the tub and kind of feel like I could lift off, like push off a little bit to like just give my back some space and try to relax. And my mom just kept saying, like, work with the contraction, like melt.
Your mom was your doula
into the contraction. Yeah. And I'm like, I think I'm melting, but I can't tell because of how bad my back was hurting. I couldn't even tell if I was like relieving pressure. Yeah. Like, you know, I couldn't tell.
The woman who's given birth 10 times is a pretty good doula, though.
Yeah.
I think she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah. So all that goes on. At this point, I'm just like in so much pain.
Yeah.
We tried those electric things on the back pain.
Yeah, that didn't help either.
When those went on, I was like, okay, I'm feeling tingling. And then when the contraction came on, I was like, get them off. Get off these things, whatever they are. And like essentially they're like these little electric pulses that you can put on your back to help try to like stimulate the muscles or something. But that did not work for me. So if other people have that working for them, good for you, but it didn't work for me.
Well, that's something I realized too, that Galen and Brittany told us, was that birth is not the same for any two people.
Yeah.
Like every single birth is unique in its own way. And, something is going to work for you. It's not going to work for another person. And there seem to be a lot of things that work for other people that weren't working for you.
Which at this point too, like when the contractions would come on, I was kind of doing this like belting noise. I know how to sing, so I don't know how to like describe it other than belting.
You had some vibrato.
Like,
in your like screams a little bit.
Like, and then it was like ha, like the open, like that's just what I naturally like started to do throughout the contractions. And I did not prepare probably enough for how to work through contractions. All I knew was just like melt and relax the pelvis, relax everything. And that's what I was doing. But as far as breathing, I didn't really realize quite how much that actually can help you. And so for me, I didn't really know what to do. So I was just naturally doing like this like open voweled sound, like ah, and like that. I look back now and I realize that doesn't help as much, because it doesn't help put as much relief in, like, so you're kind of tightening your gut and stuff. And so when Galen got there, she really just was working with me to like get my breathing right, because once I started doing the breathing correctly, it didn't relieve the contraction at all. But it definitely helped my mental space and like the energy that I had, like conserve it, like to conserve a little bit of this energy, because the contractions take a lot of energy from you.
Yeah, but before you get to that, what did you feel when Galen walked in the room finally?
When Galen walked in, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to be close. Yeah. I was like, she's here. And I felt so much relief.
She walks in all calm in her scrubs.
She's so calm. She's
like,
in this
so
bright pink scrubs. We're all in black, and like we're all in black and it's all dark. Hold on.
Hey, why don't we reposition here? I'm going to check the camera and we'll come back in just a second. All right. We're back. We're all fed up and like fed, got fed. We're filled up.
Filled up.
She's getting ready to fall asleep. So,
yeah.
Okay. So let's pick up. We were talking about
Galen
had just come in, right? You were describing what that felt like.
Yeah, and, I remember because I think I was on the bed. Yeah, because mind you, I didn't have a plan. Like I told Galen and Brittany, my midwives, I just said, I don't have an expectation at all. Yeah. So wherever I am, when I decide like, oh, we're pushing, or when she decides really, we're just gonna go with it. Yeah. So I originally, when we first talked about water births, I was so against them. I was just like, no, there's no way she's okay. Yeah.
Just thinking about the fact of her head being underwater.
Yeah, just
for that long.
And people are like, well, she's in water in your womb. I'm like, yeah, but when they come out of the canal, it's supposed to help get rid of the gunk out of their lungs. But no, it's just scientific. Until they're exposed to the oxygen in the air, they just there's something that happens where they don't take a breath, because they are getting what they need through the umbilical cord still. So anyway, I remember being on the bed and Galen walked in and she's like, hi Faith, and I was like, finally. And Reg, you said this was like 7:00, so I'd been there since 5, so it's been like 2 hours. 5, 6, 2 hours. Mom brain. And so when she came in, she was in these bright pink scrubs, and if you know Galen,
I wonder if that's because she knew Truly was a girl too. I hadn't thought about that.
Maybe,
but I bet you she has blue scrubs too.
I mean, yeah, she was just like a breath of fresh air when she came in, and I was just like, okay, I've got to be getting close if Galen's here, because again, you just don't know where you're at in the process. Because I'd never had a baby before, so I didn't know how long my labors will be. I don't have a record, to look back on. And I really just haven't I just didn't compare stories at all with a lot of people, just because I didn't want an expectation of how long or how short. Even though I wasn't checking the clock anyway, because it's 2 in the moment. But when she came in, I was just like, okay, we can do this. But immediately she came in and she kind of sat behind me and she started rubbing my back, like pretty much immediately, I think, right?
Yeah. Well, so the first thing she did was she said something about your breathing, not
That's
exhaling and being loud in the throat. And she started talking to you about lower tones and breathing, pushing things down. So she started talking to you about that.
Yeah.
But then very quickly after that, the next contraction, she started rubbing your back.
Yeah. So. Which my sister Stephanie ended up telling me, she was like, I could see your back muscles so tense all the way up. And I felt that. So I think Galen, I must have said something or she just saw it. I don't know. She started rubbing my back out, which definitely was just helping because it was feeling something more than just pain.
And she did this for the next
2 hours,
hour and a half at least before you got in the tub.
7.
But you also labored in the tub for an hour, so she probably rubbed your back for a good hour.
That's true.
And yeah, that's impressive too, to rub your back for as long as she was, as intense as she was. I'm sure her forearms were on fire.
Yeah. So when she got there, I think she said, do you want me to check you? And I said, yes, I want to know how far I am. Which actually, looking back, I never heard her say how far it was.
When she checked you, she said you were 8.5.
Yeah, she said I was 8.5, but I didn't hear her, and so I still didn't actually know how far I was. So from getting there to that point, that was 2 hours. I think I went from probably a 4 to an 8. I'm just guessing where I was when I got there because we don't really know. It's a 3 or 4.
We don't know what the pace or the frequency of your dilation was.
But we're guessing probably I was a 3 or 4 and then got to an 8 in 2 hours. So then she had suggested let's try. She was really working through the breathing with me, but then she was like, let's try to sit on the toilet. So sit backwards, kind of facing the toilet. And so after one of my contractions had ended, we walked over there and which at this point, even just walking was difficult again. Oh, it was
you had
so
a really
painful.
hard time walking. And
just because of my back.
Place to place.
My back was so painful to walk.
Yeah.
So when we got to the toilet, I was just facing the back of it and she was rubbing my back. And while I was on the toilet and Galen was rubbing me, I kept feeling her stop and at a portion of my back on my right side and feeling something. And I felt like it was possibly a big knot in my back. And then she said, all right, let me go. I'm going to go ahead and pop this back in place. And she's like, you're not going to like this. But I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And so I had a rib popped out.
This beast of a midwife, man. She steps back off her stool and she gets on one knee on the stool and starts to put a knee in your back. And she's like, I need a shorter stool. Give me that stool over there. And so we switch out the stools.
I'm still
and she gets a little
at
lower.
this point, I'm just kind of wait, what is she doing?
Yeah. So what she did was she put one knee on the stool. And she put her knee on your back with a towel in between, and then her arms beneath your arms, and she pulls your shoulders back while she pushes, and she pops your rib back in place.
Honestly, I couldn't even feel anything because at that point, my back was just on fire. And
in that moment, I was like, this was worth every penny. You deserve every dollar that I gave you. It was so awesome. She was amazing.
She's a boss.
Yeah, she's a boss.
Really, she just kept walking me through. I remember distinctly when I was on the toilet, that was when I think the first time I said, I can't do this. I don't think I can do it. And obviously you have to. I mean, there's no going back. But mentally, again, I'd only had barely an hour sleep, maybe. And we had gone through all of this. So my body was so exhausted. I just remember even things looking fuzzy. My vision felt fuzzy.
Yeah.
Because of just how exhausted I think I was. And so I remember just saying, Galen.
So every time you told her, I can't do this, she said what? And
let me remember. I think she just said, you can do this. You are doing this.
Yeah.
You are doing this.
Yeah. Every time she was basically just you're doing it. You're doing it,
This
Faith.
is what it looks
you
like.
Are doing
you are
it.
doing it. And I was like, I don't think I can do it. And then she'd, every time we got into a contraction at this point, she would just keep speaking surrender over me. And I just remember that being what do you mean surrender? Surrender to pain? Like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
But really.
Well, she said, this is what it looks like to surrender.
Yeah.
And she said that when you started to get the breathing down and the pushing down.
Yeah.
And she was like, yes, Faith, this is what it looks like to surrender.
And I was just like,
and what did that mean to you?
I just wanted to cry.
Yeah.
I'm going to cry now. Like, in the moment, I think I was like, what do you exactly mean? But I did know what she meant. And when she was saying it out, it was one of those moments where I'm like, I can do this because, first of all, God has given this life to me. Like, I'm about to meet her. And then two, when she kept saying that, I just felt the Holy Spirit just saying, yes, like, depend, back to that whole depending thing. And then with her just saying it too, it was almost like, I can't give up on Galen. We walked this hard, walked this far, walked this hard. She's not going to let me give up, even if I wanted to. Even if I said, call the ambulance, she would be like, nope, you're doing this. So. And
in the back of your mind, were you ever thinking, I can't afford an ambulance?
Yes, that too. Many times I just wanted to give up. I was like, give me the freaking epidural or whatever. And this is why I wanted to have it at the birthing center, because I didn't want the option. Yeah. Because I think if I was at a hospital, I probably, because you're just so vulnerable in that moment.
Yeah. How easy would it have been to say,
if they
yes,
just said,
I'll take an epidural.
Do you want me to take this pain away? I'd be like, yes.
Yeah.
Take it away.
That's like, honestly, it's like just avoiding the tree at all, so you don't eat of the fruit.
Right?
Know?
Exactly.
Like, don't even go near it.
Right. Yeah. So she was just
so we'll get to that. I wanted to ask you about the pain-free
thing. Yeah. Cool. That also went in the back of my mind multiple times. So anyway, I think I was on the toilet. I don't know how long I was on there. I was just on there for a little bit.
You were on there for
really
a good 45 minutes.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I got in the tub, I was only there for like an hour.
Yeah.
And that was when I had her.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I was on there for longer than I thought. But yeah,
it was 45 minutes.
It was just like working through each contraction.
Yeah, they had redrawn the bath, so they put hot water back in. So after 45 minutes on the toilet, and you had gotten the breathing down pretty good, you got the pushing down pretty good. You were getting in a rhythm.
I wasn't pushing at that point. I was just breathing through the contractions.
I mean, you were like, you were melting into the contractions the way that.
Which I think I was doing that before, but like I was just losing a lot of energy because I was doing that open vowel sound. And so
you got
I had to have been working with my contractions with how fast my labor actually did progress. Mm-hmm. I couldn't tell really. I felt like I was, but I couldn't tell with my back if I actually was relaxing or not. But I remember finally getting to the point where I felt like I could make it through each contraction, at least with just the breath. And it wasn't like, oh, I can make it in two more. Like, I wasn't like that at all. It was just this one I need to be able to make it through. And then eventually we got back in the tub, and that helped with my back a little bit. Like, in between, I started to feel actually some rest in between the contractions. I also think I was just so dead. Like,
did you start to feel numb?
I started to feel like I could fall asleep, like in between the contractions. I was like,
I almost thought you did a few times. I
might have. Yeah,
I think you might have actually.
Like, I was
a few
so tired.
Yeah. Did you get numb at all?
I didn't get numb.
No.
Like, numb to.
Just like you're so exhausted that. Oh. Like you're saying, in between the contractions, you're almost not even feeling anything.
I wasn't thinking much or feeling much.
Yeah.
It was just like silence. Like, I don't think I spoke much.
Yeah. Like, at this point, your body has gone through for sure already a full like marathon comparison and even more than that. And you haven't even gotten to really the hardest part yet, Well,
I think I was at the peak of it for quite a while. Like, those 2 hours for sure were like definitely the peak of it.
But when you got in the tub, you still had a whole hour.
I had an hour of pushing.
The harder.
I was at a 9.5 when I got to the tub. I think is what Galen said. Yeah. And that was when I heard her.
And that was when, but that was when I heard her.
So for the first time, I knew where I was. And I was like, I'm there.
But that was when you started pushing hard. That was when you really started having to give it everything you had.
I had the moment where I was like, I can push. Yeah. Like, I'm there.
Yeah.
And
so, but at that point, you were already pretty much dead exhausted.
I was dead.
And you hadn't even started the full on pushing yet. So
yeah.
You had a lot more to do.
It took me a little bit to figure out. Sorry. It took me a little bit to figure out actually what they meant by push, because when you're in that much pain and your body's already contracting down, you're like, what do you mean push? Like, I know in my head, I'm like, yeah, I'm supposed to put pressure, but it was really hard to actually figure out where that energy was actually getting pushed to, because everything was just so tense. So I felt like it took me a little bit to actually figure out what that push felt like. And once I found that, with every contraction, we were pushing. And so, yeah, I pushed for like an hour in the tub. And that was the longest stretch, I think. Like, being so close, and every contraction, I'm like, this is the last one, this is the last one, this has to be the last one. And then it wasn't, and I'm like, I think I do remember saying, I'm so ready for this to be done.
No, you said, I'm so freaking ready for this to be over.
I'm so freaking ready. Well, I think I said that after Galen said something like, you're there. And I'm like, there. I'm so freaking ready for this to be done.
It was like 30 more minutes.
But I think,
no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think the reason why it took longer was because my cervix was so tight. Like, still, even though she was coming down, the pressure's coming down, I'm dilating, I still had a portion of my cervix that just was so tight. So Galen was really stretching me to like help get her out.
And Galen had said afterwards that gymnasts gymnasts and dancers, their first pregnancy is tough like that because their bodies are so tight.
Yeah, I had a feeling. I had wondered if that was going to be a thing because I just feel like everything is just tighter, and my body build and smaller. So I had a feeling it was just tight down there. And so when she was really helping me stretch, like, she was going up in there and just like pulling down, stretching. And she ended up telling me there's a specific name. I'm glad I didn't know doctor titles, because I probably would have been a little weirded out when she said this, but part of my cervix was trying to come out before her. And so essentially she was having to push my uterus back and pull the head down in order to keep my uterus from coming forward
while trying to keep you from tearing.
While trying to keep me from tearing at the same time. So she was doing a lot.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what she called it, but essentially, like my uterus was trying to come out before her, and which is not good. You want to keep that in there. But really no complications, actually, like the whole time. She was awesome.
Yeah, so I just have to tell this one moment. This was probably my favorite moment in the laboring process. So the whole thing was really hard for me to watch you go through, and I'm sitting right there on the side of the tub just holding your hand. Or I spent a lot of time behind you, holding your arms up.
Yeah, because I was like slipping. I felt like I was slipping down in the tub. And so
I swapped with your mom at one point, so because I was going to catch Truly. So I swapped with your mom to go to the side of the tub. And I was there for I did this probably for 30 minutes before she was born. And there's one point where you have a contraction and then in between the contractions at this point, you're just kind of like slouched over. You're already doing looks like you're passed out thing. And I
was passed out.
Yeah, you were. But you were slouched over, your eyes were closed. And we had a playlist going throughout the whole evening we were there, and a song by Stephanie Gretzener called Holy was playing in the background. And I'll just never forget this moment of you just slouched over the tub, arms just limp, and then you just start raising your hand and you're saying, "You are holy, you are holy." And
I barely remember it.
And for me, like, to see my wife at basically her worst place of pain, to still be able to tell God that He's holy and give Him praise. I mean, I just can't adequately describe how beautiful of a moment that was, and how proud I was to be your husband, and to, like, I already respect you more than any person in the world, but that was a whole new level of admiration for you. as my wife, as the mom of Truly, and just as a believer. Like, it was just beautiful because it was true faith that shined through in that moment. Like, if there was ever a question in anyone's mind where your heart is, that could not be questioned. That in your moment of worst pain, you chose to worship God. And I will never forget that. It is just beautiful.
Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful, babe.
I do remember part of that moment. Like, I don't remember much about music.
I think you passed out again right after you did that.
I was trying to worship
You got
God.
about 2 arm waves in. You're holy, you're holy. And you passed out again.
But I don't remember a lot about like the music. So I put together a playlist, and I actually said, like, I'm probably not going to use it when I'm in a lot of pain. I think I just want it to be silent. But honestly, you just kind of block out at that point.
Well, because at that point in between the contractions, it was mostly silent, and we were all just kind of listening to the music. I was finally able to get
some rest in between. My back was just what it was at that point. I think I was numb to it, maybe. And so at that point, I did remember kind of tuning in the last hour to some of the songs. And one of them specifically was the Pure Worship song by Abby. I can't remember.
Gambio,
Upper Room.
Yeah.
And now we associate that song with her birth so
like
much. If I play that song, it takes me to those moments just before she took her first breath. Like, it takes me to those moments where I felt like I couldn't do another contraction.
Yeah.
And yet there she was, like, in a couple minutes. But I think that last haul, a couple things really stood out to me. We had just talked about the day before, actually, this was Thursday, about how pain is something we typically reject. I mean, pain, when do you think about a time where you have pain and your body's not signifying like something is wrong, like something is not okay? Like, usually pain is a signal of not being okay. And so I told you the day before that I'm trying to prepare my brain for the fact that my body's going to be telling me I'm not okay because I'm in so much pain. But yet, like, I know that that's actually what you need. Like, you need pain to bring her to this earth. Like, your body's throwing all these pain signals because she is literally coming. And you have to work with that pain. So I remember telling you that I was already trying to figure out, like, how to get in a mental space of, like, receiving the pain. And so we talked about that literally right before she'd come. And during that process, like that last hour, when I look back, like, I remember telling you, I think it was the next day when I was holding her. I just remember telling you that I felt so close to Jesus in that, like, last hour, because, like, it's not even close to the crucifixion, like the pain that I was going through. But, like, for the first time, I just saw, like, the reason why Christ had to go through pain for the cross. And because the pain wasn't for me. The pain was not for me. It was to bring her into the world. And same thing for Christ. The pain was not upon him because he deserved it or because it was for him. He took the pain of sin, and he took the pain, and he endured the cross for us. And I realized in that moment, like, the amount of surrender and also the amount of love that it takes to endure that kind of pain for someone else is, we don't have those opportunities very much in life, to really carry the pain for someone else. But that moment, I just felt so close to Christ, because it really hit me just how much he really does love us, how much he loves us to endure the pain on the cross. And, like, I know in that moment, it's hard to say, like, oh yeah, you know, Christ had joy, because people think of happiness in that. And of course, Christ wasn't happy about the circumstances of the cross, but I do believe that he could have joy, because through that process, like, bringing her into this world, it wasn't exciting, or it was exciting, but it wasn't, like, invigorating to have pain like that. But at the same time, like, I wouldn't have gone back and done it painless, because after that, it was like the pain almost made it so much more valuable
meaningful
to me. Yeah. That I could endure more than I thought I could for her.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm going to hold on probably for the rest of even being a mom. That like, there's going to be pains that I can't carry for her as she grows up, and she's going to have to learn to depend on Christ like I do. But there is a period of time where she depends on me too, and I'm just going to think of that like always throughout mothering her now, is just the fact that like we can depend on Christ in that same way, and we have to, but that the pain is part of the process, and it's part of the beauty, actually. So
yeah, it's so beautiful. I mean, Scripture says, for the joy set before him, right? Like he was able to have joy through the whole process because he knew he was, number one, doing the Father's will, and that gave him joy, and he knew what it was going to accomplish, and that gave him joy. And I think I really did just see that in you through the whole process was, the knowing that you're about to see her and you're about to hold her for the first time, and you're so close. And the closest thing that guys and people who can't give birth, so men, the closest thing that we can relate to that feeling, I'm sure, is something like a marathon where you've run tens of miles and you can see the finish line and it's right there, and your body is just dead and you're ready for it to be over, but you know that it's right there. So you're just in that moment, you're totally willing to accept the feeling of being dead and exhausted, because you know it's about to be over. You can see the finish line. And so for you, you're just so ready for it to be done, but you have this joy, this just insatiable, enduring joy, because you're about to see your daughter for the first time. You're about to hear her cry. And at that point, did it start to feel like it was all, like, obviously you knew it was worth it, and even beforehand you knew it was going to be worth it, but did you start to actually process in your mind and feel in your soul like this has been worth it, even though it's not technically over, she's not born quite yet, or a few minutes away, but it's about to happen? So like, what was the few minutes leading up to her being born?
I don't think I could even think about this was worth it, because I couldn't think about being out of it yet. Like, I couldn't think about what I'd gone through yet. It was just more minute to minute, expecting, waiting to finally meet her and for it to be over. Because they kept telling me with every contraction, you're minutes from meeting your daughter. You're minutes from meeting your daughter. And at a few points, Galen had pulled my hand to feel her head. Like, she was right there. And I was like, it feels like she's so far away still.
Was there one point, I think there was one point you said, did she go back up in?
It felt like I was restarting every time.
Restarting every contraction?
I felt like every at that point when her head was there, it felt like I was restarting every contraction.
And I remember Galen saying the first push is pulling her back down, and then the next couple of pushes is where we make progress.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the first push is a reset, and then the next ones are progress after that.
Yeah. And once I had found that, right rhythm of pushing, I think it went pretty quick after that. And, Galen was doing her thing, and she was coaching me through it. And the point when I felt, I think she said partial, so her head had come out partially. And at that point, I could feel like she's right there. Yeah. This is actually like, I'm about to push a baby out right now. It was like so real at that point. And so I think it was just the next contraction. Yeah. After that.
It was.
That. I pushed, I think, harder than I've ever pushed in my entire life.
Yeah. And so this is the one she comes out on now, and she didn't actually come out. So you had pushed, you'd push, and I think you had felt the contraction was stopping, and Galen said, "One more."
I know.
Give me one more good one. And then she came out on that one.
the contraction was stopping, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
And she was like,
Galen was just like, one more big one.
And so I did. I pushed it. She came out, and it was like an instant.
Yeah.
Like,
and so
fast.
It was so fast too, because she then looks at me and she goes, okay, Dad, hands. And the water was already bloody and murky. You couldn't see down there. And so she had said before, I'm just going to guide your hands down here and you'll catch her. And it wasn't really, like, she came out so fast because it wasn't really a catch. It was more like a handoff. Galen had caught her, I think, like directly out. But then as she was kind of breaking the water, it was kind of like a handoff to me. And so and I wanted to show you this. So she's born, she comes out, and then just explain that moment right there to me. What are you feeling right there?
Thank you, God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember saying, thank you, God. Thank you, God.
Yeah. You said her name as soon as she came out.
I did not remember that. So when y'all showed me the video, when she came out, I yelled, Trilly!
Yeah, you did. Twice.
I don't remember that at all. I do remember when they put her on my chest, all I could say was, thank you, God. Like, I heard her crying and I knew she was okay. Like, that moment, it was like everything from pregnancy leading up to that point, all of the depending on God, trusting that she was okay, trusting that this was a gift to us, that this isn't something for me to allow the enemy to try to steal the gift of life from. Because that's the thing, like, I just had to keep reminding myself that the enemy does not have a place in this process. This is something God ordains alone. Right. Even the pain.
Right.
So the pain was, I didn't feel like I could rebuke the pain because I didn't feel that it was the enemy. I really felt like this is God bringing me through this. And so, I mean, it was just that moment of holding her. It was like everything whirlwind up to that point that we had walked through just came to immediate peace. It was like, this is what a gift looks like, a miracle looks like. So holding her was just overwhelming, and I was just so relieved.
Yeah, it was amazing. I didn't cry instantly. I was just beaming with a smile. Like, I was so just ecstatic, and
I could have cried.
I started crying a couple minutes after when we were sitting there. And then I just kind of scooted closer, and I was just holding both you guys.
I think I could have cried, but I don't think I had the tears left in me to cry. Like, I didn't have any water in me. I was sweating, and I was so hot. So I think I was just like in total just submission and awe.
But I put my hand around her, and she grabbed my finger like pretty fast too. That was like one of the first things she did was grab my finger. Yeah, we have a great picture of that.
Yeah.
So and then I just remember in one of the calmer moments, she had stopped crying. I was just like, I gotta pray. We have to pray. And so we just prayed and just thanked the Lord. We just praised him, because, I mean, what else do you do in a moment when his faithfulness is on full display and you've been through such a journey? And for me, I've just watched you from the whole way through, from beginning to end, and just walk in so much grace and faith. And then for her to just be healthy and alive, I mean, my goodness, just for her to be alive is such a miracle. And so
seeing
everything,
her little feet and her little hands for the first time, it was like, she's all here.
I know, all here, so purple,
every little toe,
and looking weird.
She actually did not look weird. So I had told Reagan,
but I didn't know she was going to be as like purple grayish as she was.
The oxygen,
because her blood hasn't really.
I think I told you this beforehand, that I had prayed. I'm like, Lord, I know an ugly baby when I see one. Please blind me.
if she's ugly.
Not cute.
But thankfully, she is the cutest little baby.
Oh, so I'm like, it's not that I wouldn't love her. I was just like, if she comes out and it's like scary, Lord, blind me.
Because Brad Stein makes a joke about this. We have all seen those ugly monkey babies. And what are you supposed to do when you see? It's so terrible.
After going through that process, though, I don't think she could have looked a certain way at all that I would have like been like, oh my gosh. Like, after going through the process,
It's totally not even what you're thinking about.
It's just not what
you're just
like, I love you. I love you. I love you.
It's just your child. Yeah, for sure.
But honestly, she came out and she's just like perfect. Her little head is perfect.
Yep.
She didn't even have a cone head. It was just...
Her hair's immaculate.
Her hair is beautiful.
It's so awesome.
So we had all put our guesses in on what color hair she'd have, her eyes, how long she'd be, and weight. No one guessed her due date. The only thing that someone guessed... Yeah. The only thing someone guessed right was her length. Gigi guessed her length right. Nice. Lots of brown hair guesses. And then me, Andra, and I think your dad guessed hazel eyes. And I think we're right. So far, it's kind of hard to tell because they're just very dark blue-gray right now. Mm-hmm. But I think that they're going to be like Reagan's eyes. I think they're going to be like a green, blue, hazel
probably
color.
Yeah, we'll see as time goes on.
Yeah.
So
we stayed in the bath while she was born at 9:01 a.m.
9:01 a.m.
So we got there at 5 and she was born at 9. So Galen was only there for 2 hours, and those 2 hours, we had her. But afterwards, I stayed in the tub. Stayed in the tub. They drew like an herbal bath. That
with
kind
her.
of had some. Yeah, I just stayed in the bath with her for a little bit. I just held her. When the placenta came out, what did you think?
Oh my gosh, dude. Okay, this thing.
I wanted to record Reagan's reaction, but at that point, I wasn't thinking about it. But I wanted this recorded.
I mean, obviously, for people who have gone through birth and people who have seen birth, you know what a placenta looks like. But I've never seen what a placenta looks like either. And I wasn't gonna go looking up what placentas look like before. That's just weird.
I did.
Red flag on my search history.
I looked up placentas, but I didn't see. I just saw images of the side when they're in the womb. I didn't think about what they would look like coming out.
Yeah. So I had no idea what to expect, no expectations. It's freaking weird. But I will say, okay, so here's the thing about
placenta came out really quick after I had her. I think it was only a couple minutes, and I was cramping again. And
so number one, it is way bigger than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And it looks like a jellyfish.
The same size as her. Not size, but weight maybe.
Yeah, literally. It has to hold her. The sack on it. So it looked like a jellyfish. So it was not what I was expecting it to look like. But after so Galen pulled it out, and then she kind of isolated the sack away from the fleshy part of it. And so then she I don't know what you call that part, but she explained to us what each part was. Mm-hmm. And so it's actually super cool. It's a really, really, obviously it's God designed. And so it's what's giving her life. It's what's giving her the nutrients. She's getting all of that from that side of it. Yeah. And so, and she hadn't shown us this, but our sister who was telling us later on that there's in the sac, I think part of it, you can see it. They call it the tree of life. Yeah. There's you can see the
pattern of
pattern of veins and stuff that's on it. And so she didn't actually show us that part, but just to know that that's a part of it and that's what's there. It's pretty cool. So I was very taken aback when it first came out, but I was also I was thinking, because you were telling me a story of this lady who was doing some adjustments with you, our chiropractor. Her husband had delivered
her first
one of their
child, not
kids.
Planned to do that, but.
And he had said after that, he was like, "You're lucky I've skinned deer."
Yeah.
And I was thinking to myself too, oh yeah, this kind of looks like some parts of deer that I've skinned and I've pulled out before. So in some sense, I was kind of this is not a big deal. I've seen stuff like this, but it just was not what I was expecting at all. It was very interesting.
But it wasn't scary, and it was all so normal and natural. Yeah. That's one thing I really loved about my midwife too, is I just never felt like a patient. I always felt like just a person. Becoming a mom, I felt valued, and I just never felt like this is a procedure. Yeah. It's just all very much a normal, natural thing that happens, Yeah, totally. So she was so awesome the whole way through. Shout out to Galen.
Yeah, she was amazing. So we ended up staying there for most of the day. We rested up, got her to latch and feed, and
immediately
just rested.
She latched.
Yeah. Our parents were both there, and and your sister Destiny actually came in. We forgot to mention this during the labor part. When you got in the tub, it was for that last hour that she showed up, and you were.
Yeah, so I was just kind of like in the midst of obviously the worst part of it, and I was just really feeling maybe I can't do it, you know? Again, like it was just those thoughts kept coming. Like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
But then you had leaned over to me. You were like, Destiny's here. And I turn over and I see my sister. And it was such an emotional part.
Yeah.
It was such a light of hope because, and it sounds dramatic to say, but honestly, giving birth is dramatic. But when I leaned over and I looked at her, she had delivered Aaliyah, her little one, right in that same tub about a year before me.
That.
And so looking over and seeing her and her smiling, I was like, I can do this.
Yeah.
You know, she did this just last
awesome.
year. Like, I can do this. And it was just it was a boost of encouragement right before, you know, she came and really helped me finish.
Yeah. I'm so glad she did come. She was just like a little angel over your shoulder, and she was just praying for you, and in the breaks she was just you know, declaring the presence of the Holy Spirit in the room, and just safety over you. And truly it was awesome. I'm really glad that she was there. Let's see.
Sister
So
Steph took pictures the whole time.
Yeah, Steph did pictures. Awesome. The pictures are amazing.
My mom, I can't believe I didn't break her arms.
I know, your mom held you up for a good while in the back. Yeah, she was great. My mom was there. My mom got the video of Truly being born. So we just had a whole team. Yeah. You know, everyone was there to support you, had a role to play, and just did phenomenal. Yeah. It was so awesome. So, and then when you got out, I held her for the first time, skin to skin. That was just beautiful. Man, what a moment.
I felt so weak getting out of the tub, but I wanted to see you holding her.
Yeah. I was sitting right behind you, but it's okay.
I couldn't see you.
Yeah. But I mean, I was thinking in that moment too, I just remember being 17, 18, dreaming of the day that I'll hold my first kid. Yeah. And, you know, in that moment it was real. And I mean, it was just, golly, so many good feelings about it.
Yeah. We've literally, like, this last week. Yeah. We've just been finding ourselves just crying alone.
Moment after moment.
And we're like, are you okay?
And but they're tears of joy now. Thankful. Yeah. So I went out and showed our dads Truly, and they got some pictures with her and took some videos, and she immediately had your tongue out of the mouth.
That
kind
was
of thing.
Something that I noticed when I was holding her. I think one of the first things that I noticed in the tub when she came out, she was starting to cry, but then she kept going.
Oh, she was like
sticking her tongue out.
She couldn't keep it in her mouth.
And it's just it's a joke in my family that
because that's what you were like as a
I
baby.
Always have my tongue out because I just have pictures.
You're just spunky.
Yeah. So I was like, oh my gosh, she's just like her mama.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we just had a good little resting time at the birthing center, and then we decided to go home that night. It was a little rough in the car seat. Drive home.
No one tells you.
She's still spitting up and burping up all the liquid and fluids in her lungs,
which is not a fun feeling.
Not fun.
Especially when they're locked into a car seat.
Yeah.
Oh, don't like that.
So at one point a couple things about the drive, but the best thing about the drive, we won't talk about that part, but the best thing about the drive was so cool. The Lord gave us, and I'm not joking, I've seen some amazing sunsets in Texas. I think he gave us the best, the most beautiful sunset I've ever seen in my whole life. Yes. And it was amazing because it was contrasted by a lightning storm happening opposite of that. Yeah. So we're driving home, and over on our right is this beautiful thunderstorm, right? Like, but then over on our left is this amazing sunset.
So seriously, the whole pregnancy I'd been saying like yellow is her color, like yellow, yellow. And this sunset was gold. Amazing. And it wasn't just sunset. It was everything had a touch of gold to it. Amazing. So like the way the clouds were structured around it, and so the beaming light through the clouds. It was the whole sky. So the whole sky was gold. Every ray, touching the trees and stuff, everything had a haze of gold to it. The road was obviously dark and black from the rain that had just passed through, but the reflection was gold. Yeah. And so it was literally one of the most beautiful. Yeah. So the whole earth had this golden haze of gold and a little bit of pink in the clouds. The contrast of this being this storm of pain that you just went through. Literally.
juxtaposed to the beauty of life coming in with the sunset. It was just awesome. It was so symbolic.
So symbolic.
Such a symbolic
we were like,
home.
what in the world's happening?
It was awesome. That was just a little kiss from God.
Yeah.
So we loved the drive home.
I wish we had gotten that pictured somehow. Yeah. But it's pictured in our minds. It's pictured in our minds.
Yeah. Yeah. So, man, there's so much. But just last question I'll ask you is, what has the Lord just been saying in this last week? Just she's 8 days old today. So, you know, not very long, but a week, right? What has the Lord been just putting on your heart in this week?
That He is faithful. This whole week, just looking at what this looks like for God to give you a gift. It's a good gift. And I have had multiple moments where I've just cried because I felt like I want to give God a gift in return. It's like, God, thank you so much. And I just want to give something back to you to show you how thankful I am. And I just keep feeling like there's nothing that I could possibly give him that is going to express really how thankful I am and how much I see him in this whole process and just now. But I just feel the most blessed. I feel like the most blessed person in the whole world to be able to be your mom. And it's funny how quickly that shifts, you know. I think sometimes you have fear. Like I remember had a little bit of fear going into being pregnant. And, you know, just worried about if it's at the right time, is it not? I don't know. But, you know, once you have, you're like, what? I wouldn't want to waste it any time. Like I don't want to have waited. Like we would have missed out. And so realizing just how much that God gives, he's the only giver of life. And when he does give, it's good. And it doesn't matter if she has the perfect toes or the perfect nose. Like that's not the goodness of the gift. The goodness of the gift is
even though she does have a perfect nose.
Even though she does.
Everything is perfect.
But the goodness of the gift is the fact that it's life. Yeah. She has a calling and a purpose on her that we couldn't have created, that God had to put in place. Yeah. And he has entrusted us with this. And I feel so honored. Yeah. So honored.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, this week has just been overwhelming. So many moments where I'm just realizing the depth of the Father's love in a whole new way.
Yeah.
And it's because she's so small, so delicate, so fragile. Like she can barely move her head on her own.
She's got a strong head.
Even though she's already kind of moving her head on her own. It's actually really impressive. But she can't do anything on her own. She's completely dependent on us. And when I'm just holding her and I'm just like looking at her and I'm just thinking, you know, you have, even if you're not thinking it right now because you're a baby and who knows what you're thinking, you're feeling loved and safe and trustworthy of us, and you have faith that we're going to take care of you. And that is, I mean, this is just the picture of what we are supposed to be. It feels towards the Father.
Yeah, it feels like we've become children again.
Yeah, I mean, literally. So, I mean, this has just been rocking my world, and it's made my faith more childlike. And it's just been a beautiful journey. And I just want nothing more than for her to just be comfortable and safe and loved. But I also know that with life is going to come pain and trials and growth, and that is all part of the journey. And so just the picture of what a child's life is such a picture of what the Christian life is, because you know that this is going to come with a journey of pain and it's going to come with a journey of trials. But I'm excited even for all of that for her, because I know that's all that life has to offer. Yeah. And I don't want to shield her from the joy on the other end of pain. You know, I don't want her to be sterile and weak. I want her to grow up and be strong, and I want her to be a spiritual champion. And so I'm just so excited to watch her go through all those first moments and just see her start to put her faith in the Lord, because, you know, like our testimonies, that she won't know a day without the Lord. and we're going to make sure that she knows the name of the Lord, and that his praises are sung in this house and from our lips. And hopefully that'll be some of her first words. It's just Jesus and singing praises to him. So yeah, this has just been otherworldly because it is otherworldly. This is eternity that we're holding right here. We're holding an eternal soul.
Yeah, it's a gift that keeps giving.
Yeah, it is.
Even in the middle of the night when I'm waking up to feed her, and I know she needs help, she needs me. It's like even in those moments, it's like the Father's love. We cry out to the Lord. We don't really think about, what else is going on in the world or who else is crying out to the Lord. It's just cry out to the Lord. Yeah. And that's what she does. And so it like teaches, even in those moments when you're super tired and you're like, man, I'm really, really tired. It really just doesn't feel like a burden because I'm grateful that I get to wake up with her, and that she needs, that I can help meet her needs right now. And I know it's not always going to be the case. So I'm just kind of soaking that in, but it is just a beautiful picture because it's like, how could I be burdened by this,
Yeah, truly, we're going to try to document the journey with you. And so we'll have plenty of stories of overcoming things and all the trial and errors and lessons learned of you growing up and us learning how to be parents.
Yeah, definitely learning. Yeah. We need a lot of grace.
A lot of grace. So I'm going to close in prayer and just pray over her and her future. And as you watch back on this, truly, when you're 18 years old and your mom and dad here are super young, I'm sure it's weird to even see us like this. But gosh, we just pray every good gift from the Father of Lights over you. And let's just finish in prayer. How about that? Lord, we just thank you. We praise you. We honor you. We lift you high, for you are good. You are holy and greatly to be feared. And I pray that our baby girl, Lord, is a testament of your truth and your goodness in this world. I pray that your kingdom would reign over her life. Lord, that your Holy Spirit would be the most familiar voice to her, Lord. And even now, that as she rests, she is resting in the peace and the warmth of your arms. Jesus, I thank you for your work on the cross and the sin that you paid for us and for Truly. I just plead your blood over her, Lord. Thank you for a miracle that we have the privilege and honor of being the mom and dad to. We thank you, Lord, for the plan that you have for her life. And we're so excited to see it unfold. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Great job, baby.
Thanks.
Till next time.
Yeah, until next time.
We don't have a sign off yet. We'll come up with something.
Until the next baby.
Until the next baby.